What if I told you that right now, in 2026, seniors across America are walking into their local DMV expecting a simple license renewal and walking out with restricted driving privileges, mandatory medical evaluations, or even complete license suspensions? This is not a scare tactic. This is happening today. And if you're over 65 or have a parent or grandparent who drives, the next few minutes could save your family from a devastating surprise. If you are over 65 and planning to renew your driver's license in 2026, the rules you followed for years may no longer exist. Across the United States, the DMV has begun enforcing brand new driving regulations that could directly affect your ability to stay on the road. These are not future proposals. They are not ideas being debated in Congress. These changes are active right now, and thousands of drivers are already being caught off guard. Seniors who expected a simple online renewal are suddenly being forced into in-person vision tests. Drivers who miss a single insurance payment are waking up to suspended registrations. And people who glance at their phone for just a second at a red light are receiving expensive tickets in the mail weeks later. Many drivers have no idea these rules even exist until it's too late. And by the time they find out, they're already dealing with fines, restrictions, or even the loss of driving privileges. That's why this update is so important. If you rely on your car for doctor appointments, grocery shopping, visiting family, or simply maintaining your independence, these new 2026 DMV rules are something you need to understand right now. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn exactly what has changed, who is most affected, and most importantly, what you can do immediately to protect your license, your freedom, and your wallet. Hi, I'm Fernando, and on this channel I break down complicated DMV updates and driving law changes into clear, simple information you can actually use. No legal jargon, no confusion, just straightforward guidance to help you stay informed and stay protected. These new 2026 rules are some of the biggest shifts in driver regulations we've seen in years, especially for older drivers. Many people assume that if they've been driving safely for decades, nothing will change for them. But that assumption can now lead to serious problems. My goal today is to make sure you're not surprised by any of this. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the DMV is now requiring, how these rules are being enforced, and the specific steps you should take so you don't end up facing unexpected penalties. Let's get into the first major change that is already affecting millions of senior drivers across the country. The new 2026 DMV changes can be grouped into three major categories that every driver needs to understand. First, there are expanded vision testing requirements that primarily affect drivers age 65 and older. Second, there is a new real-time insurance verification system that monitors your coverage status automatically and can trigger instant penalties if anything goes wrong. And third, there are much stricter distracted driving enforcement rules backed by new technology that makes it easier than ever to catch violations. Each of these changes on its own is significant, but together they represent a completely different approach to how driving laws are enforced in America. The days of friendly warnings and flexible grace periods are quickly disappearing. Automation is replacing human judgment. Systems are becoming faster, stricter, and far less forgiving. That means drivers who are not paying close attention to these updates can suddenly find themselves facing fines, suspensions, or restrictions they never expected. Over the next several minutes, I'm going to break down each of these three changes one by one in plain, everyday language. I'll explain exactly what the rule is, why it exists, who it impacts the most, and what you can do right now to avoid problems. And we're going to start with the change that is causing the most confusion and concern, especially for seniors: the new mandatory vision retesting requirements. If you are 65 or older, the way you renew your driver's license is about to change in a very real and very important way. For years, many senior drivers were able to renew their licenses online or by mail without ever stepping foot inside a DMV office. That convenience is now being taken away in a growing number of states. Under the new 2026 rules, drivers aged 65 and older are increasingly being required to renew their licenses in person and pass a vision screening test before they can be approved. This change is already active in several large states, and more states are preparing to adopt the same policy. So even if you've renewed your license the same way for decades, that process may no longer be available to you. The reasoning behind this change, according to transportation officials, is simple. As people age, vision naturally declines. Conditions like cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, and reduced depth perception can make driving more dangerous without the driver even realizing how much their eyesight has changed. Safety agencies argue that regular vision checks help identify problems before they lead to accidents on the road. And from a public safety standpoint, that makes sense. But for many seniors, this new requirement feels stressful, confusing, and even a little frightening. After all, driving is more than just transportation. It represents independence, freedom, and control over daily life. The idea that a routine license renewal could suddenly become complicated or restricted is a serious concern. Here's how this new process can play out in real life. Imagine you're 70 years old and your license is set to expire in a few months. You've been driving safely for 50 years with no major issues. Naturally, you assume you'll renew the same way you always have. Maybe you log into the DMV website, expecting to complete everything online in a few minutes. But instead, you receive a message saying you must appear in person for a vision screening. So, you schedule an appointment, wait several weeks for an available date, and finally go to the DMV office. When it's your turn, you take the vision test and realize that reading the smaller letters on the chart is harder than you expected. Maybe they look blurry. Maybe you hesitate. Maybe you don't pass on the first attempt. At that moment, the DMV has the authority to place restrictions on your license or require additional medical documentation before allowing you to renew. Those restrictions can take several different forms. Some drivers are limited to daylight-only driving, meaning they are no longer allowed to drive at night. Others may be restricted to driving within a certain distance from home, such as a 10 or 20-mile radius. In more serious cases, drivers can be prohibited from using highways or freeways. And in extreme situations, the DMV can refuse to renew the license at all until corrective steps are taken. This is not hypothetical. It is happening right now to real people in multiple states. The important thing to understand is that failing a vision test does not automatically mean you will lose your license forever. In many cases, the DMV simply wants proof that any vision problems are being properly addressed. That might mean getting a new prescription for glasses or contact lenses. It might mean seeing an eye doctor for a more detailed examination. In some situations, medical treatment like cataract surgery can dramatically improve vision and allow a driver to pass the test with no restrictions at all. But the key point is this: waiting until the DMV forces the issue is the worst possible strategy. The smartest approach is to prepare in advance. If you are 65 or older and your license renewal is coming up within the next year, schedule a comprehensive eye exam as soon as possible. Make sure your prescription is up to date and that your glasses or contacts are working properly. If you have any known vision conditions, talk to your doctor now about treatment options instead of waiting for a problem to appear at the DMV counter. You can even practice basic vision screenings at home or at local clinics so you're not caught off guard. Taking these steps early can make the difference between a smooth renewal process and a stressful situation filled with delays and restrictions. And it's also important to remember that even if restrictions are placed on your license, that does not mean the end of your independence. Many seniors continue to drive safely and confidently with reasonable limitations. The goal of these new rules, at least according to state officials, is not to punish older drivers. It's to make sure everyone on the road can see clearly enough to drive safely. But whether you agree with the policy or not, the reality is that this change is here, and it's expanding nationwide. Being informed and prepared is the best way to protect yourself from unpleasant surprises. Now, let's move on to the second major rule change, the one that affects every single driver on the road, regardless of age. And that is the new real-time insurance monitoring system. The second major 2026 DMV rule change has nothing to do with age, vision, or driving skills. It affects every single licensed driver in America, and in many ways, it is the most unforgiving change of all. States across the country are now using real-time insurance verification systems that are directly connected to DMV databases. In simple terms, this means your insurance status is being monitored automatically every single day without you ever knowing it. In the past, if your car insurance lapsed for a short period, the DMV might not find out unless you were stopped by police or involved in an accident. There was often an unofficial grace period where people could fix mistakes without facing immediate consequences. That safety net is now gone. Under the new system, the moment your insurance company reports that your policy has been canceled or even briefly interrupted, the DMV is notified instantly. No letters, no warnings, no second chances. The penalties can begin almost immediately. Here's what that means in real practical terms. If your insurance lapses for even a single day, your vehicle registration can be automatically suspended. You could receive a notice in the mail saying your car is no longer legally allowed on the road, even if you had no idea anything was wrong. On top of that, most states will charge fines that range from $100 to $500 or more, depending on how long the lapse lasted. And even after you fix the problem and get new insurance, you will still have to pay reinstatement fees just to reactivate your registration. In some states, if the lapse is long enough, or if it happens more than once, your driver's license itself can be suspended, not just your vehicle registration. That means you could suddenly lose the legal right to drive any car at all. All of this can happen because of something as simple as a missed payment, an expired credit card, or a banking error. The system does not care why the lapse occurred. It only cares about one thing: whether you are insured at every single moment. To understand how strict this has become, imagine a very common situation. Your insurance payment is scheduled to come out automatically each month. One day, your credit card expires and you forget to update it with your insurance company. The payment fails. The policy cancels at midnight. Within hours, the cancellation is reported to the DMV's database. You continue driving to work, running errands, living your normal life, completely unaware that anything has changed. A week later, a letter arrives saying your registration has been suspended and you now owe hundreds of dollars in fines and fees. Until you provide proof of new insurance and pay everything you owe, you are not legally allowed to drive. If you get pulled over during that time, the consequences become even worse, including additional tickets, possible vehicle impoundment, and even criminal charges in some states. This is not a rare scenario. It is happening every day to responsible drivers who simply made a small administrative mistake. These real-time verification systems are already fully active in many states and are expanding rapidly. The goal, according to lawmakers and insurance regulators, is to reduce the number of uninsured drivers on the road and make enforcement more efficient. But for everyday people, it means there is absolutely no room for error anymore. So, what can you do to protect yourself? The most important step is to set up automatic payments for your insurance and double-check that your payment method is always up to date. If you get a new debit card or credit card, update the information with your insurance company immediately. Another critical step is to be extremely careful when switching insurance providers. Many people shop around to save money, which is smart, but you must make sure there is absolutely zero gap between your old policy ending and your new policy beginning. Even a single day without coverage can trigger the system. Always get written confirmation of start and end dates, and keep those records safe. It's also a good idea to regularly check your insurance account online or through your provider's mobile app. Most companies send alerts if a payment fails or if a policy is at risk of cancellation. Pay close attention to those messages instead of ignoring them. And finally, always keep proof of insurance easily accessible in your car and on your phone. If you are ever stopped by law enforcement, being able to show valid proof immediately can save you from additional problems. This new system is designed to improve public safety and reduce uninsured driving, but it also means honest mistakes now come with very fast and very expensive consequences. Understanding how it works and staying on top of your coverage is no longer optional. It is essential. Now, let's move to the third major rule change, the one that is changing driver behavior more than any other: the dramatic expansion of distracted driving enforcement. For years, most states had laws against texting or holding a phone while driving, but enforcement was often inconsistent. Many drivers treated those rules as suggestions rather than serious violations. That era is officially over. In 2026, distracted driving laws are being enforced more aggressively than ever before, and the penalties have become much harsher. First-time offenses that once carried small fines can now cost hundreds of dollars. Repeat offenses can lead to points on your license, mandatory safety courses, and even temporary license suspensions. Insurance companies are also responding by raising rates sharply for anyone caught violating these laws. A single distracted driving ticket can increase your premiums for several years. What makes this change even more powerful is the technology now being used to catch violations. Many states are rolling out advanced camera systems equipped with artificial intelligence that can detect when a driver is holding a phone, looking down at their lap, or interacting with a device. In some areas, these systems allow citations to be issued automatically without a police officer ever pulling you over. That means you might not even realize you were caught until a ticket arrives in your mailbox days or weeks later, complete with photographic evidence. The legal definition of distracted driving has also expanded far beyond what many people expect. Under the new rules in numerous states, you can be cited for simply glancing at your phone while stopped at a red light. You can be ticketed for touching your phone to change music or check directions, even if your vehicle is not moving. Even holding the phone in your hand while sitting in traffic can be considered a violation. Picture a very ordinary moment that happens to millions of drivers every day. You're sitting at a stoplight. Your phone vibrates with a notification. Out of habit, you look down for just a second to see who messaged you. You don't respond. You don't type anything. You simply glance. Under the new enforcement standards, that brief action can be enough for a ticket. An officer nearby can cite you on the spot, or an automated system can capture the violation. A few weeks later, you're paying a fine of $200 or $300. Points are added to your driving record, and your insurance rates jump dramatically. What felt like an innocent, harmless moment can end up costing you thousands of dollars over time. So, how do you protect yourself in this new environment? The safest approach is to treat your phone as completely off-limits whenever you are behind the wheel. Keep it out of reach in a bag, in the glove compartment, or in the back seat. If you need to use GPS, set your destination before you start driving, and place the phone in a secure dashboard mount. Never adjust it while the vehicle is moving, and avoid touching it even when stopped in traffic. If you absolutely must make a call or respond to something urgent, pull over into a parking lot, put the car in park, and handle it safely. Those extra few minutes are far better than dealing with a costly ticket and years of higher insurance bills. These laws may feel strict, but they are designed to address one of the leading causes of accidents in the country. And in 2026, enforcement is stronger than it has ever been. These three changes: vision retesting for seniors, real-time insurance monitoring, and aggressive distracted driving enforcement represent a major shift in how driving laws are applied across America. Together, they are reshaping what it means to stay legal on the road. Understanding them is no longer just helpful information. It is essential knowledge for every driver who wants to avoid fines, suspensions, and unnecessary headaches. It's important to step back for a moment and understand why all of these changes are happening now at the same time. On the surface, they may seem unrelated, but in reality, they are part of a much larger national trend. Federal transportation agencies have been pressuring states for years to tighten driving regulations, especially in areas involving senior safety and distracted driving. States that adopt stricter enforcement often receive additional federal funding for roads and infrastructure, while states that don't comply risk losing that money. At the same time, the insurance industry has been pushing hard for real-time verification systems because uninsured drivers cost companies billions of dollars every year. By automating enforcement and eliminating grace periods, insurers reduce their financial risk and shift the responsibility onto drivers and state agencies. There is also the simple reality of rising accident rates. Despite modern vehicles being safer than ever, crashes involving distracted driving and older drivers have been increasing. Lawmakers and transportation officials feel political pressure to take visible action. And finally, technology has made all of this possible. 10 or 15 years ago, states did not have the databases, AI cameras, or instant communication systems needed to enforce rules this strictly. Now they do. Whether you agree with these policies or not, the truth is that they are here. They are active, and they are only going to expand in the coming years. That leads to an uncomfortable but necessary question. What happens if you ignore these new rules or assume they don't apply to you? The consequences are far more serious than many people realize. If you are over 65 and required to take a vision test, but you skip it and continue driving with an expired license, you are technically driving illegally. Getting caught in that situation can lead to heavy fines, vehicle impoundment, and in some cases, even arrest. If your insurance lapses and you keep driving, the financial risk becomes enormous. Being involved in an accident while uninsured, even if the accident is not your fault, can leave you personally responsible for medical bills, property damage, and legal claims that could reach tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your savings, your home, and your future income could all be at risk. And when it comes to distracted driving, repeated violations can quickly add up to license suspensions, court appearances, and insurance premiums that triple overnight. These are not theoretical worst-case scenarios. They are real outcomes that drivers across the country are already experiencing because they didn't realize how strict the system has become. For senior drivers in particular, these changes can feel overwhelming and even unfair. Many older adults have decades of safe driving behind them and suddenly find themselves facing new hurdles just to keep doing what they've always done. Some states are even considering additional requirements beyond vision testing, such as more frequent renewals or cognitive assessments for drivers over a certain age. Advocacy groups argue that these policies unfairly target seniors and threaten their independence. But state officials insist the goal is safety, not punishment. If you, or someone you love, is worried about how these rules might affect daily life, it's important to plan ahead. Many communities offer transportation services specifically designed for older adults, including low-cost ride programs, volunteer driver networks, and local shuttles. These options may not replace the freedom of driving yourself, but they can help maintain mobility if restrictions become necessary. Having honest conversations with family members about future driving plans can also prevent stressful situations later on. Preparing early is always better than being forced to react after a problem arises. The most practical way to deal with all of these changes is to focus on what you can control right now. Start by taking the vision testing requirements seriously if you are 65 or older. Don't wait for the DMV to surprise you with an appointment notice. Schedule an eye exam early. Update your prescription and address any potential issues before they become obstacles. Next, treat your car insurance like one of the most important bills you pay each month. Set up automatic payments. Double-check your account details and never allow even a single day without coverage. If you switch providers, confirm in writing that there is absolutely no gap between policies. And when it comes to distracted driving, adopt a zero-tolerance mindset with your phone. Make it a habit to put the device out of reach before you start the car, and keep it there until you arrive at your destination. Small adjustments like these may feel inconvenient at first, but they can save you from enormous headaches and expenses down the road. The overall message behind the 2026 DMV changes is very clear. Driving laws are becoming more automated, more data-driven, and far less forgiving than they used to be. Systems that once relied on human discretion are now controlled by computers that act instantly and without exceptions. That means personal responsibility has never been more important. Staying informed is no longer optional. It is the difference between smooth, stress-free driving and a cascade of penalties that can disrupt your life. The good news is that none of these changes are impossible to navigate. With a little preparation and awareness, you can adapt to the new rules and continue driving confidently and legally. If this information has helped you understand what's coming and how to protect yourself, consider staying connected so you never miss important updates like this. Regulations continue to evolve, and new changes are always on the horizon. Sharing accurate, practical knowledge is one of the best ways to help yourself and the people you care about avoid unnecessary trouble. Most drivers don't learn about these rules until they've already made a costly mistake. You now have the advantage of knowing in advance. Use that advantage. Stay proactive, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay safe on the road. Looking ahead, it's important to understand that these 2026 rule changes are likely just the beginning. Driving laws and DMV policies rarely move backward once stricter systems are put in place. In fact, most experts expect even more automation and monitoring in the years ahead. Additional states are already discussing tougher renewal requirements for older drivers, including more frequent testing and shorter license renewal periods. Real-time insurance tracking is expected to expand nationwide until every state uses the same type of instant verification system. And distracted driving enforcement technology will continue to become more advanced, with cameras and artificial intelligence playing an even bigger role in how violations are detected. The overall direction is very clear. Driving in America is becoming more regulated, more data-driven, and more strictly enforced than at any point in the past. For everyday drivers, that means the margin for error is shrinking. Simple mistakes that once resulted in a warning or minor inconvenience can now trigger automatic penalties within days or even hours. My name is Fernando. This is U.S. Policy Brief. Thank you for taking the time to understand these critical updates. Being informed is the strongest protection you have in this new era of stricter DMV enforcement. I'll see you in the next one.